My name is Paul Murray. I'm the Vice President of the Global Peace Foundation, USA in Washington, D.C. And with me today is Dr. Keith Anderson with Liberty University. Welcome, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you for having me. My name is Keith Anderson. I happen to be the Executive Director of Student Health Center and Wellness Initiatives at Liberty University. Also happen to be a pastor, over 29 years of experience. So the issues of religious freedom and humanitarian crisis are very dear to me to be a part of, and I'm grateful to be here with you and talking about something that's so important to us.
Great. It's really good to have you here. We're here today in Seoul, Korea, and we've been talking a little bit about the current situation that is going on and the call for a unification in North and South Korea. And when we look at the college community, the campuses across the nation, what do you see as a way, or what is important for colleges to get involved in a One Korea effort?
You know, when I think about the One Korea effort, and I think about the benefit of joining a nation together again and uniting families, it's a human rights issue for me. Anything that would prevent that from happening is problematic for the entire international community. And I think it's really important for the next generation of thought leaders to be involved in this unification process, for they will inherit this community, this nation, and I think it'd be in their best interest to be involved with it.
Does Liberty University, and I know with it being a Christian-based university, when we address issues like religious freedom, what does Liberty University, how do they promote that?
So religious freedom is a basic human right, but specifically, Liberty is the largest Christian university in the world. And so quite naturally, we are all about protecting religious freedom and giving people an opportunity to have a choice. Obviously, we're Christian, and so we would love for them to make the choice to choose Jesus. However, it's more important that for the basic human construct of being a spiritual being, that those individuals have an opportunity to either decide or not to decide to believe in a spiritual nature or spiritual component of their lives. So it's really important for us to do so. So therefore, we champion and support agencies, groups all over the world who promote not just spreading the gospel, but the basic element of having the right to choose.
Excellent. When we talk about human rights, and North Korea known for its atrocities when it comes to human rights and the restriction of religious freedom, when we look at non-religious based universities and campuses across the country, what critical components are necessary around human rights that we can use to really have an impact with young people?
Well, for those universities that are part of the USA, one of the things that we promote is the fact that the human rights is part of the First Amendment. So as we deal with the construct and the very nature and society in which we live, we promote the things that we established and hold as a core value to us. And so I don't want to make this an American thing, but it's a human rights thing. And so I look at the fact that for the culture in which we live in, for a person to be healthy, to be whole, to be the most productive citizen in whatever aspect of their dwelling place, they need to have the opportunity to be able to speak up, to have free conscience, to evaluate and then pursue their own spiritual journey or goal. And again, for us as a university, Jesus is unequivocally our God and our focus in a religious aspect. But when you talk about a human's right aspect, we promote the opportunity to explore and to engage. And universities should be challenging settings. What I mean by that is we promote discussion, we promote learning, and we promote exchanging of thoughts. And so anything that would inhibit that ability to have that discussion and to have that intellectual prowess, then that is a violation of that human right.
So when we're thinking about platforms to bring about awareness, education, and even advocacy when it comes to this unification of North and South Korea, on college campuses, what kinds of platforms can be used for student engagement?
Well, for student engagement, I would probably appeal to the student development and student life departments and making an educational awareness. You can start through a philosophical approach. You can go through a human wellness approach and make it the atrocities known, number one, and then appeal to the interest and student engagement. Like I said, student development is the job of the university setting. So it would behoove us as educators to bring those atrocities or bring those conditions to the awareness of students and allow them to have intellectual conversation. I think it's important to have mentorship. And I think it's the ability and responsibility, if you will, of student and faculty to address those issues. So giving them educational platforms, bringing awareness, utilize every communication aspect available. I think it'll be a great idea for them to start an app or some social media chat rooms.
So when we're looking at platforms for colleges and universities, if a student wants to be involved or engaged in bringing about awareness, education, and even advocacy around one Korea, North and South Korea coming together, being unified, what kind of platforms or mechanisms can a student use? For example, can they create a college campus program, or is there something else that they can do?
Sure. I think some of the means in which students can engage with this topic is to develop an awareness day,
Great idea.
awareness week, and build a momentum around the awareness first, and then allow students to develop clubs or interest groups who can help promote and begin with a peer engagement.
Do you think that this unification of North and South Korea could be seen in this lifetime with students if they get engaged?
Absolutely. I believe that the unification can happen in this generation's lifetime because they're the largest living cohort. They're the most intelligent about the use of technology, and their premise is to be drawn to social causes.
So when we talk about technology, I find that fascinating because when we look at social media, what can students do to bring about that kind of advocacy? What instruments can they use to bring awareness to this?
Well, I think the use of social media and technology can start as simple as a Facebook group.
And connecting that with other
And
universities.
connecting them, and starting small communities of engagement all over the world. And I don't think it should be restricted to just Korea, but I think it's really important for the Korean citizens and students to engage one another first, and then learn from the advantage of being connected around the world.
I heard it said that in order for the unification of North and South Korea to be successful, that it has to be Korean-led and driven. Yes. What kind of community does Liberty University have when it comes to the Korean community?
Well, we have a very strong presence of Korean students from South Korea. We have Korean language clubs. We have Korean students who are in ministry-related studies in the master's as well as the bachelor's level. And with the International Students Department, there are students who gather with homogeneous backgrounds but then we promote the integration of cultures and in a setting that feels safe for them.
When we look at the different universities out there, Liberty, I'm assuming, has a Korean club. Do other universities and colleges have Korean clubs? And if not, how easy is it for one to be set up so that they can move forward in this kind of effort?
You know, I think it's important that we recognize that there are all kinds of clubs on college campuses. But I think it's very important not only to have students to engage one another, but to be mentored. And I think it will be a great challenge within the faith community if some of the faith communities of Korean descent would take ownership and sponsor and support the mentorship that these clubs that exist on the universities. And I think that's important if we really want to be intentional about a change, is to have it an intergenerational change that's owned by the people that it affects most directly.
Excellent. I think that's a great point. So students can really bring about an impact on this issue. What mechanisms can they use to do that? Can there be any kind of campaign or something in that realm where it brings about a viral response? I think that's probably what I'm looking for.
Sure. I think it's important to understand that thinking through a middle-aged man's mind, I think campaigns, I think strategically, I think with the end in mind. Mm-hmm. But what I have to be careful is that I don't take my ideas and approach and impute them upon this younger generation. They're so cause-driven. My role in the relationship is to guide them and help them understand the why. If we teach these young people the why, they're creative enough and innovative enough and familiar with technology enough, they can move it faster than you and I could craft it. We just need to be along for the ride.
Excellent, excellent. When we look at connecting colleges and universities and young thought leaders, what is the best way to do that around this cause of bringing North and South Korea together?
Well, again, helping young people understand the why creates the need and a cause. And if you could elevate a cause, you'll draw the young people to it. And when they see a crowd and they see a connection, they'll come to it and they'll carry it.
Good, good. In your own words, what would be the why?
The why is to, the why for young people is to continue a legacy of responsible citizenship, reconnecting families, valuing the existence of another, and understanding that there are people who are oppressed, who are connected to them genetically and spiritually, and just the human race factor gives them the why they need. They don't need much. They just need an opportunity.
So when we look at the work, for example, that Liberty University is doing when it comes to their global outreach, taking young thought leaders and having really an impact, and it being a Christian university and really wanting to spread the gospel, but also working in the areas of disaster relief. Is there a way that Liberty University students could really build upon that platform of global outreach that draws attention to North Korea and South Korea to address the humanitarian needs? Would that be a platform that you think young people would want to be engaged in?
I think, again, if we would go back and highlight the humanitarian atrocities or violations, I think intrinsically our students want to help. They want to be a part. I think missionally, as an institution, we train our young people to earn the right to be heard. So addressing physical and felt needs initially, but then keeping in mind that just beyond being a help or a hand up, we want to walk alongside And I think that relational factor would help the unification process in that we would educate those people in North Korea about the opportunities they could be better and that could benefit them by being in relationship with their North Korea or South Korean brothers and sisters. I don't think there's a program that Liberty does now that addresses it, but I think there's an opportunity if we can show that there's a humanitarian opportunity to assist with the connected with our Christian understanding of coming alongside of people who are helping or hurting, excuse me.
Dr. Anderson, is there anything unique or relevant that you would like to say to the viewers today?
Well, I think it's important for us to be a community, and an international community and global community is still a community. And there's no way that I could know that a brother and sister is in harm's way and it not compel me to want to do whatever I can. Whether large or small, we all have a responsibility to one another.
Excellent. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Anderson. I really appreciate your conversation. And when I think about colleges and universities, I think it's very important that regardless of what institution you represent, that there is a humanitarian crisis that needs to be addressed. And in order to do that, this unification of North and South Korea can bring about an awareness and then programs and a platform to really address the humanitarian needs, because a unified Korea will make this peninsula much safer and the people much greater.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. That was really good. Appreciate it.